Alright, we're good to go. Ready for the stream. Welcome back to the Watchalong with LSI for the Singapore Grand Prix. We are here for the first qualifying session of the evening. And I say evening, afternoon if you are in Europe, evening if you are in Singapore. Let's get it. It's going to be a good one. Lots of cars already out on track right now. Of course, we've had a few minutes underway so far. Leclerc tops the times at the moment. Will they be able to keep that there? I reckon they can do a very good job of doing so. 7 tenths behind that man is Sergio Perez, who sets their lap instead. Mercedes were being very, very confident. They're saying that they think they could, if they get everything together, have the pace for maybe even the top two, the front row, if not the top four. That being said, though, they said Leclerc, who was a little bit slow in FP3, has been incredibly quick throughout the weekend and will be able to find it in qualifying, as he always usually seems to do. So Charles Leclerc currently setting that top time, maybe backs up Mercedes' theory, and it might just be a McLaren and maybe Ferrari top three. As myself and Zingy predicted earlier on, it would be Norris, Piastri, Leclerc. That's how we were looking at it. Maybe it could be a Ferrari in the middle. Maybe Charles Leclerc could make it another pole position in a row. That would be a phenomenal job, but Lando Norris goes and takes that away for the moment right now, just over 1.5 tenths ahead of the Monegasque driver. Does the championship contender, the main championship contender, at least fight for Verstappen, or with Verstappen, puts themselves to P1, as Piastri goes 2.5 tenths down on their teammate, but still with 30.9, they're not quite as quick, or no one is quite as quick as we saw in FP3, with Lando Norris doing a 29.6, so we're yet to see that lap time be replicated, but it will definitely be something that we can achieve very soon. I don't know if it's going to be raining. I don't believe it will be raining around this circuit at all at any point. We're just going to double check that weather forecast whilst we can. We have time to do so, as tomorrow it could be very, very useful to look into. The chance of rain is basically nothing. So we're going to have a dry race, and it should be a good one regardless. I really hope we almost get a similar kind of vibe from last year. I want Verstappen to be in the fight, because that would be great. The more cars the merrier, but just that closeness, that real intense driving that we had all the way to the line was just absolutely awesome. Sure, there may have been a yellow flag, but it didn't affect it in the end. That is Carlos Sainz getting their lap time deleted, unfortunately. So they're going to have to make sure they go again. That being said, it looks like their time is still pretty competitive, their previous lap time, unless it hasn't updated on our timing sheets just yet. But yeah, so far they've got a little bit more if they want to catch up to the top guys. They are currently 2.5 tenths down on the current top time. There's Piastri to P3. Since then, Albon and Colapinto doing some very good lap times right there, making it work quite nicely. In the meantime, Norris has gone into the pit lane, as they're going to wait to go out for another run if they need to, but they're maybe hoping that that's enough. That being said, sure, the track's colder, no one's been running on it too much. I don't know if maybe F1 Academy has been here or in the middle between practice and qualifying. It's definitely going to be good temperatures for an F1 car to be able to operate, but a 30.7 compared to the FP3 time being a 29.6. I think we're going to have to get a second run from Norris here, and Leclerc, of course. I don't think that's going to be a safe lap time. Maybe it could be, but we'll see. That is Colapinto going over the curbs in the final chicane effectively, and really making it very close to the wall, so they are lucky to get away with that one, so they can continue their session. They might have actually, yeah, they did smack the wall on the rear end, so they're going to have to make sure that they don't do that again, but they're still currently P9. They are away off their teammate right there, a second off almost off Ricciardo. So actually, yeah, that's not really a competitive lap time. Competitive lap time, however, from Yuki Tsunoda, still 5/10 away from Lando Norris, and there is going to be some more running later on into the session. Maybe Lando's gone a lot quicker than they thought he actually has. So my bad if I've misjudged that there, but Alonso goes up, Magnussen right behind as well. Everyone's putting in these times. Max Verstappen goes purple in the first sector, and they set their first lap to make it a P2 and split Norris and Leclerc. That is a very, very good job from the Dutchman, who is expected to not have such an ideal car compared to the rest of the pack. But a brilliant job from that man. As looking at the predictions, I believe people are thinking that it will be Charles Leclerc on pole position. I'm just going to double check on what the polls were from the YouTube channel earlier on. It's actually to win the race, my bad. But it's going to be very similar, isn't it? For sure. We have got to win... no, sorry, take pole position. It is going to be Norris, according to the public, with 53% of the votes, Leclerc with 42, 0 for Sainz, and someone else with 5%, whether that be Carlos Sainz, Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. I don't think anybody else would be in contention for that pole position. We've got 7 minutes on the clock. The stages are closing. There's not too much more time to go once again, and the drivers have to be very careful and make sure that they get these competitive laps in nice and tidily as well, more important than most. If it's not tidy, it's going to be very, very risky, and their session's going to be affecting the race massively. Of course, that's pretty much at every circuit, but around this circuit, it's virtually impossible unless there's a massive big issue to make overtakes. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. We're going to have to see a few sends from a few people, I assume, if they make mistakes in quali. We've got a Red Bull. I don't know who that was, if that was Verstappen, so close to the wall, unless that was Perez, but they are just going all over the place with the twitchiness of that car. Leclerc understeering actually at the hairpin of turn 13, so he's got a bit more time to get in that lap. And if that is the case, then Lando Norris has got more time in that lap as well from his side, and he is already out of the pit lane once again, ready to go. So is Oscar Piastri. So the two McLarens just leave, and now they are ready once again to improve, to try and see if they can just make sure that they get themselves into Q2 this time. Lando Norris, of course, not being able to do that of Azerbaijan and having a few issues. Getting out of the circuit, or onto the circuit a little bit earlier than, of course, peak times, but it does mean that they'll have a better chance of actually setting a lap compared to what happened last time with Lando, as they were very last minute and unfortunately had the little mistake with the yellows distracting them as well. So they don't want that to happen again. That's where they're going a little bit safer, it looks like. We've got Carlos Sainz, who is that in lap, I believe it is an in lap for that man. Piastri and Norris are actually on scrub tyres, looking to try and just improve based on track evolution over anything else. So they've already, this is their original compound, I should say, from the start of this qualifying session, I believe, and that's what they're going to be running on. We've got Alex Albon also out on track at the moment, and they will be going for their lap just before both McLaren drivers. We've got Lewis Hamilton getting a lap time deleted, still ahead of his teammate, however. That is track limits at turn 2. Alex Albon starts their lap. Let's see what the Williams drivers can do. The Racing Bulls, P10 and P15 at the moment. We were kind of thinking that they may even be stronger than the Williams this evening. It seems that Colapinto, of course, with that issue, just hasn't got a lap in so far since then. But Alex Albon, they are currently P12 in between the two Mercedes. There is such a mix these days in Formula One. It's what we want, but it just makes things so hard to predict, so so easy to get wrong, and it's going to show a lot of drivers making more mistakes. Your favourites may be out of qualifying, and some unusual names may manage to get in to the later stages, especially around a circuit like this where the driver is a massive factor compared to the engine power. The downforce, of course, is definitely a massive factor, but if you can't utilise it and be brave enough, then you are going to lose out probably a bit more time. For sure. That's inevitable, or straightforward. That is a purple first sector for Norris, but a purple middle sector for Albon. Norris will look to try and take that away from Albon, but Albon is coming through the final stages of the circuit, the final DRS zone, sliding it in to the final chicane. Very, very quick right there. Immediately, Norris takes away that purple middle sector. That is Alex Albon across the line. But what's it going to be from the tyre driver? It's going to be a 30.6. So just over the FP2 best lap time. Lando Norris is looking to make it all three purple sectors if they can do so. Around the final corner, what's it going to be? And it is going to be improvement by 0.6. So Alex Albon, I don't know, that might not be enough. If the other cars can't get laps in and there are yellows, then they might be safe, but 0.6, is that going to be good enough for the Thai driver? As they were a bit under the, not under the limit, but, well, yeah, really, they were kind of under the limit on the exit of the hairpin. They got very, very twitchy, and they had to kind of just bleed the car out instead of letting it naturally run wide, which they really wanted to do. And yeah, they did lose a lot of time for sliding through turn 16 into 17. So that might be a little bit too much of a mistake there from Alex Albon. Piastri 2.5 tenths behind his teammate. Then we've got Charles Leclerc right behind for now, but they are on their way out of the pit lane. We will see Max Verstappen, who is currently 5th, start their next lap and be ready to go in a few moments' time. And we will actually see that's Hamilton going for an improvement run. They've gone down in the first sector. Russell improves, however, but they are 2.5 tenths down currently on Norris, though, so they are looking to go to P2, P3-ish kind of area. Will they lose more time to the McLaren driver later on? Perez also improving in that first sector, but Hamilton is the one to watch at the moment. It's not looking too good for the man in blue, soon to be the man in red. Within the next few months, of course, which I still can't believe I'm saying the next few months. It's crazy how it's nearly the 2025 season. Lots of rotation for Hamilton on the rear end, still struggling for traction potentially. They've got to be careful, but they've only got a few more corners to go. They just need to try and set a safe lap so they can get their way into Q2 and not start as far back as they did in Azerbaijan. Obviously, Azerbaijan was a special circumstance. That is Hamilton across the line, and it is going to be a P3. We're going to have Russell looking to try and compete with Oscar Piastri, as Oscar Piastri is going into the pit lane just ahead of him, and that is going to be Russell actually down to P6. So not having the best of the rest of the lap, unfortunately. Sergio Perez goes up to P4. That is an awesome job right now. Verstappen is looking to improve, and they are going to make it a P2. That is a brilliant job right there from them. So the Red Bulls are looking competitive after all. Russell might not be safe. I thought Albon may not be safe, so everyone behind could be in trouble as well. Perez 6 tenths behind as well. They could in theory be unsafe. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on Albon then, and it might actually be absolutely fine. We've got Lance Stroll at the back of the pack improving in the first sector. Colapinto needs to get through to try and be nice and close to their teammate. That's Fernando Alonso to P7, and George Russell is really not happy with the car. So they were happy in the session, but they're not really happy on how the car feels compared to what it felt like before. Yuki Tsunoda in P8. George Russell in a bit of an alien land at the moment, but still could have an ability to stay in. That's Colapinto across the line, and it's going to be a P8 for the Argentine driver. Awesome stuff to get their way up the order, and it might, after all, be enough. They've got a few more cars to go, however, and Russell's down to P12 as Hulkenberg makes it the top 10. It's not looking good for George Russell. We could see a Mercedes start this Grand Prix once again outside of the top 15. Different reasons, of course, but it's not going to look good. Lance Stroll will be the first one to be guaranteed out of qualifying. Lance Stroll P16 and a long way off their teammate Esteban Ocon to P14. Carlos Sainz can't afford to have a middle sector like he's had. He's got to improve. It's not going to be enough there for Zhou Guanyu. There's three cars that could improve right there. 2 cars now as Bottas is still out. Gasly and Ricciardo looking to get their way through. Gasly will not be able to do it. Ricciardo is the last one that can knock out Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz improves. It could be Ocon that gets knocked out if Ricciardo can improve. He has got a few more corners to go, or is that going to be it for Ricciardo? Will they be able to improve? No, that is it. Daniel Ricciardo, who is looking to try and keep their seat going into this Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda P10, Ricciardo picks P16 and is knocked out of the first hurdle of qualifying. That is very disappointing for the Australian driver, who seemed to be very happy after their practice runs. And we maybe judged the Racing Bull car a little bit too optimistically. The Haas doing a pretty decent job, as it has been throughout the season, to be honest. And P11 and P14 obviously doesn't sound great, but they got themselves into Q2, and it is cool to see them so high at a circuit that they should be not so good at, because the straight lines, well, there's not as many as there are corners. I did say that yesterday. It makes sense, but the straight line kind of advantage isn't as much as it would be compared to, say, like Monza. So yeah, it's a surprise to see them up there, but they've done a very good job indeed. That is quite possibly confirmation that Daniel Ricciardo has had his final qualifying of his career. Now, it was mentioned that maybe, just maybe, he's managed to secure the seat and he could possibly be good to go for the rest of the season. There may have been an agreement within the last kind of 24 hours that Ricciardo will stay in that team for the rest of the season. It might be the other way round. It might be that within the 24 hours they have confirmed that he will not be racing after the Singapore Grand Prix. So they've got to try and relax, look for tomorrow, and do their best to see if they can kind of enjoy it. That's effectively what it's going to be like. Alright. Max Verstappen not happy with the traffic of all the other cars. It is Singapore after all. It's never going to be easy. But he was trying to push that car to the absolute limit and didn't quite work out. Had a bit of a tow, but more of a hindrance really as they go into the final chicane. But now, Q1 is done. They got through safely. They actually put it P2, so, you know, it couldn't have been too bad after all. They managed to get themselves into a very comfortable position. Red Bull looking very quick after the first part of qualifying. The first out of 3 sessions that we will have here in Singapore. Piastri takes that P3 and Hamilton making that brilliant call. Or not brilliant call, brilliant kind of progress, that upwards trajectory on improving and managing to find the pace in the car. Whereas George Russell, really not happy. He said the tyres were completely different to how they felt in practice, and that's why he was unhappy, couldn't push the car. So that must have been something that he really struggled with, because yeah, otherwise he wouldn't have been as far down as he was. So I don't know if they can make many changes. Well, no, I know they can't make many changes. I don't know if they can actually make any changes that would actually make a difference to help them out before Q2. But we will find out how that goes, of course, in a few moments' time. They could find themselves out of Q2 if they aren't able to improve, however. Alright, we're just waiting for the next session to start. Incident involving Carlos Sainz, Piastri, Ricciardo, Bottas, Stroll, Ocon, Gasly will be investigated after the session. Once again, the Delta time has been failed to be followed by those drivers, as it happens every single weekend, and it will just be a note, I think, and nothing really will happen. Actually, Hamilton did have a track limit deleted if we didn't mention that earlier on. I knew some others had lap times deleted. Yeah, we did mention it actually in the end. Now we are waiting for the session to start. It won't be long at all. It will be within the next few seconds that we can once again go for qualifying here in Singapore. Alrighty. Everyone is on their way. And we've got Sergio Perez asking some questions to their engineer, I believe that was. First out on track for the Mexican driver. Max Verstappen not too far behind as well, second out on track. And we've got Alex Albon and Colapinto. They will be the ones next up. Magnussen, Hulkenberg. Everyone leaving the pit lane in an orderly fashion. Teammate behind teammate. We will assumingly get Norris, and that will break the trend as Leclerc and Carlos Sainz will split Lando Norris to Piastri, who will be out in a little while. They look like they're going to be ahead of Bottas. Behind Carlos Sainz though, so they will be next, of course. And we will see how that one goes in a few moments' time. Being very slow to get the car in a good window for tyre temp. They just want to bleed it in. They don't want to really push it too hard. Those tyres are very, very sensitive, and they've got to work them well to make sure their temperatures are eased in so they can get the maximum performance of that car. Otherwise you start to get graining if you don't do it right, and it goes horribly wrong. Sergio Perez starts their qualifying run for Q2, and they will be the one to set the pace, of course, in this session, and everyone else will have to come along and follow accordingly. Verstappen will be the closest benchmark to them, as they are an equal machinery, and they will be the next driver to complete a lap after Sergio Perez, of course. Alright. Just having a look. We're all good. Purple first sector, naturally for Perez, but taken away by Verstappen eventually. So Verstappen is looking pretty quick right there. Albon will come into the second sector. They are 26.8, so faster than Sergio Perez, which is pretty good going from the Williams car. And we are waiting to see Colapinto cross the sector line as well, to see if they can start improving, of course. Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz will all be starting their laps very soon. Magnussen and Hulkenberg have already done so. Sergio Perez into the across the line. What's it going to be for the Mexican driver, as it's going to be a P1 by 30 30.6. So it's not the best lap of all, but they made a mistake at the very end of it. Verstappen goes across the line and should be able to take that in the final sector. It should be purple as well, but it's not. Sergio Perez, although really on the limit in the final sector, still managed to go purple. Norris has taken away the purple sector from Verstappen from earlier on, and they're looking to go very quick and maybe look at the top time. That's Albon into P3, 6 tenths behind Verstappen, 4 tenths behind Sergio Perez, 3.5 really behind Sergio Perez. So they've done a pretty good job right there, and looking very, very competitive. Only a few milliseconds off of Verstappen in the third sector, so that Williams is looking pretty decent, although they have lost a bit of time elsewhere in the circuit. That is actually Max Verstappen losing their lap time as they extended at turn 19. So that is a pretty annoying situation for them. So they must have gone off big time. That's why they didn't go purple in that final sector. I must have maybe confused that. It wasn't Sergio Perez who had an issue in the final sector. It must have been Max Verstappen. Now Nico Hülkenberg will take that provisional pole, but it will immediately be beaten by Lando Norris, and then Piastri, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc will be looking to try and take that away in a few moments time, in a matter of minutes. Leclerc goes up, and then we will see also, of course, Carlos Sainz cross the line, and that will be how it goes for now. Alex Albon not very happy at all with the car at the moment, or with the qualifying. I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't quite hear what they were saying. We might get a bit of a confirmation in a few moments time, which would be good, of course. But that is Verstappen very close to the wall. Was that the exit, the hairpin? So yeah, they made a big mistake on the final few corners, and yeah, went over the circuit. It was probably slower, but they still set an improvement lap time, and it has to be deleted as they went over track limits. Yeah, so it is Alex Albon not happy at all with the car there, not happy with the tyres. So that's a difficult situation for them to be in. The McLarens are a bit loose on the rear end, although they've managed to make it a P1 and P3. Carlos Sainz wasn't able to be quite so competitive compared to their teammate and the McLarens that they've been fighting so far in recent races, as they have been split by Hülkenberg and Tsunoda, as Hülkenberg is incredibly close to Piastri and Leclerc, so they've done a brilliant job to do that. Tsunoda a little further behind, very close to Carlos Sainz, however, and then there is a little bit more of a gap, only a tiny gap with Perez and Sainz. And then we continue to go down the order, and we have both Mercedes on their way out to set their first lap now, but currently they are dead last. Of course, Verstappen had that lap deleted, so if Verstappen wasn't to have that lap deleted, everybody would have set a lap time so far, and it would just be the Mercedes at the back of the pack. Hamilton is going into turn 14, 13 for Russell, and the last DRS zone for Lewis Hamilton will be available right now. Would they, in a Formula 1 car, not the Formula 1 game, but in the Formula 1 car, will they be deploying DRS as they come through turn 19 on the exit, or are they not going to bother to the line? I assume they might do, to try and maximize everything they can, as Hamilton goes fastest in Q2 so far. George Russell, how are they going to make that look? They're going to go and put it 2 tenths behind Hamilton. So a very, very good lap right there all round for Hamilton, but no purple sectors, whereas George Russell has gone purple in that final sector by 0.02 of a second over Hamilton right there. So yeah, both Mercedes looking pretty quick as they set a slightly later lap time. So later lap time, of course, does mean that the track has evolved a little bit more, which is going to be natural. But yeah, we'll see. I do apologise for the issues with the stream. Again, I hope it's only minor issues with the visual side of the stream, which isn't ideal, but not as important. I'm just going to double check and see if it's all good. But yeah, we seem to have a big FPS drop, which is quite frustrating. Compared to earlier, it's only seemed to get worse. But we'll just double check. It seems okay. I think we should be good. No problems at all. Alright, we continue. And we want to see, as the later stages come into qualifying, who is going to start to go quickest. Now, as I was saying, of course you get track evolution for Mercedes going a little bit later, so they're going to be able to be on a bit of a faster circuit. That changes things definitely, and it means that they can effectively go faster. It does mean now that when they go in the pit lane, if they want to go again, which I assume they probably will do, they have less time to get the car ready to then go out once again. They still have plenty of time, don't get me wrong, but they do have less time. But they are Mercedes, they've won many championships and races in their time. They know how to do what they do, and they know how to do it very well. So yeah, both Hamilton and Russell in the pit lane. I believe Russell is getting weighed right now as they enter. We've got Max Verstappen once again going again for this lap. They are on a fresh set of soft tyres. This will probably be the Dutchman's final lap of the qualifying session, unless they can do a cool down lap and then once again go again. So they might be running a little bit more fuel in this car to make sure that they can go for a second run if they need to. Of course, they can't afford to get this lap time deleted. We've only got 4 minutes on the clock, and so Max Verstappen hasn't set a single lap. We've got Ocon, Colapinto, Albon and Alonso currently in the drop zone as well. Magnussen's made it in for now. Ocon doing a great job to get that Alpine into Q2. Of course, Lance Stroll would have been expected to be a little bit quicker and close up and follow their teammate into Q2, but didn't manage to get the job done. Similar situation for Ricciardo, and that's how Ocon has managed to find his way to the pack. So a very good job indeed right there from them. All right. Max Verstappen goes fastest by a decent margin. We'll just get that over the line. 2.5 tenths they improve by. So well done indeed there from them. I want to apologise, but we've got some major sync issues right now. Not really anyone's fault. It's very confusing. Right. Hopefully that's all good, and hopefully it's all fixed, and we should not need to worry anymore. As we continue. And waiting for the next few cars to cross the line as everyone is on their way out of the pit lane. And we've got Charles Leclerc starting their next run of the evening. We've got Verstappen, of course. They are doing in-lap, I believe. But yeah, it's going to be Piastri actually to cross the line to set a competitive lap time next. So we will make sure we keep our eyes on the Australian driver. Only a few moments left in qualifying. and it's going to be very, very difficult for everyone to get it all done now. There is no room for error. If there's a red flag, you're going to be out of this session, as we saw with yellow flags as well. If there's a yellow flag, you're also going to be out of this session. Currently, Magnussen knocked into the drop zone as Verstappen went fastest. Alonso, can they get their Aston Martin up the order? Maybe knock out a Haas Racing Bull. It could be possible. Neither Williams are in the top 10 compared to what they were in Azerbaijan, of course. Then they very unfortunate had to have that issue in qualifying with Alex Albon. Anyway, they continue now, and we are really in the dying stages of this qualifying session as there is less than 60 seconds on the clock. Oscar Piastri goes top of the times at the moment. Lando Norris is not going to be the next one to set a lap, as they didn't actually set a fast first sector. Has it been deleted? I don't quite know. It's going to be Leclerc go to P3 with a purple first sector, a tenth behind at the moment. It's all quite close. It's actually a purple middle sector. No, last sector from Piastri. Middle sector is not been set by anybody recently so far. Maybe it was Verstappen earlier on. Fernando Alonso comes around the final few corners to see what they can get done in this qualifying session. Can they get their car within the top 10? Yep, they can get the job done. P9, they could be knocked out if they're not careful. Sergio Perez is going to be very quick. They've got to make sure that they get this job done if they want to make it work. There is no more time left in the session. That's how it goes. And it's going to be Yuki Tsunoda. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I believe Yuki Tsunoda may have got through. No, it is going to be Yuki Tsunoda out of the session, I believe. No, it is. It is Yuki Tsunoda into the session. Well done indeed for Yuki Tsunoda. They've done a mega job right there. And to confirm, it will be Alex Albon and Colapinto out of this session. We've got Perez and Magnussen, or is that Hulkenberg actually going a little bit quicker? It is going to be Perez going as fast as he could, but once again disappoints and will be knocked out of qualifying. So maybe Daniel Ricciardo's safe and it will be Liam Lawson to the Red Bull instead, as that is not going to be an improvement for Esteban Ocon, and it won't be an improvement for Kevin Magnussen, I would assume, as that was a very confusing end to Q2. I do apologise for all the sync issues, but we're good to go. And qualifying has been complete, with Norris going purple in the first sector, but doesn't need to complete the lap time, so go straight into the pit lane. They can save that tyre for Q3, where it really matters most. Piastri tops the times in Q2, then we've got Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Sainz, Hulkenberg to P7, which is a great job. Then we've got Russell, Tsunoda and Alonso, but being knocked out is Albon, Colapinto, Perez, having a very disappointing session with Magnussen and Ocon. Alex Albon really unhappy with the situation that they've been put in this evening. Quite frustrated, it seems. And they just praise Franco Colapinto, as it was a difficult session. It was a very difficult session. But they did all they could. And they were right behind their teammate, of course, by an incredibly small margin in only their third Grand Prix. And they've been to a circuit that they've never driven at before, with Singapore. Alright, just making sure everything's good. And now that the session is over, we will go for a short break as we just sync everything up, and we'll be back within about 60 seconds. Alright, just a quick update. We're just waiting for the session to start. We've only got a few moments away until we are good to go. We may need to quickly take another break for syncing issues, but I believe we should be fine. We will have to double check that in a few moments time, of course, as the session does finally start, and we can once again be good to go here with Singapore. Now, lots of cars still in at the moment, not going out just yet, but they do slowly make their way all to the track as they're just trying to take it easy. You've got to relax around this circuit, otherwise it will be game over. And this is where it really gets important for the top teams, of course. Now we have a quick look at the sinking situation and hope that we're all good. We will have to just do that a second, and then hopefully we're good to go in a few minutes' time. I believe we should be fine though. Alright, anyway, we move on, and we will see the first laps of the Singapore Grand Prix qualifying third session be underway in only a few moments' time. One more quick double check on the sinking situation, and hopefully we're all good. I do apologise for this, but it seems to be the way it goes. Alright. Just one more sync situation and we should be good. It's taking its sweet time, I do apologise. Alright, there we go. I think that will do, and hopefully we can be good to go now. There's been an off. Carlos Sainz has got a big problem in the barrier. Just want to double check where that is. We can't quite see. Carlos Sainz, okay. He was going slow, then wanted to follow on, as that was Piastri going across the line, ended up losing the car, and that suspension is not looking good. That rear wheel should not be facing in that direction. They have gone straight in to the barrier with the rear end, the same place that where Lance Stroll crashed before. They didn't travel so far along the circuit, but that will be their session done. Carlos Sainz will start the Singapore Grand Prix in 10th place. Alright, we're just gonna make sure that we use this opportunity to go for one more sync. How long would this red flag session be, or situation be? It's probably gonna be a bit of time. We gotta, of course, rebuild the barrier and get that car off the circuit. It's so close to the pit lane entry, but it's on the wrong side of the circuit. So, yeah, it's not going to be so straightforward for the marshals to catch after all. But that is the session done. And there's nothing that they can do about it. So, goes on the power as they start the lap. Just got a big swapper into the barrier. Not a mega hard hit, but a lot of damage to the car, which is, unfortunately to say, quite a clumsy mistake. Launches the barrier, and that barrier is going to be rebuilt. So yeah, it's a difficult one there for Carlos Sainz, who is not going to be happy with himself at all. Alright, we're just going to double check to make sure we've got everything good, and then hopefully we're all fine with this qualifying session. We will shut that away and just double check with this for ourselves. Lovely stuff. Indeed. Right. Carlos Sainz is into the pit lane after a very disappointing end to qualifying. Does not look happy at all. Neither does that car, and neither will the mechanics be, but they do have a long way until the next race to be able to, of course, repair that car, which isn't ideal. It's going to be a night race. You're out of sync already with the sleep pattern, as effectively the daytime is the nighttime. So they're going to be working well into the morning, into the day, to get that car fixed. So disappointment for a lot of the for the teams of the top four. One with Red Bull losing Sergio Perez in Q2, and the other with Carlos Sainz crashing into the wall in the final few corners, and Leclerc will be the only Ferrari now to fight for the top end, if they can fight for the top ends, that is, of course. But that is qualifying done, and this is how it goes. We've got 8 minutes on the clock for the rest of the pack, and they will get maybe 2 laps in for the session. They can definitely get 2 laps in. Whether they'll want to do 2 laps or just make it 1, I'm not entirely sure. Really depends on who has the tyres. Currently fitted to the car's scrub tyres are Sonoda Alonso and Nico Hulkenberg. Currently on tyres that they've run on so far is Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, whereas the other cars are pretty much on fresh tyres, or they've just done an outlap. Now, Piastri, Hulkenberg, both set their laps. They're currently P1 and 2. A 30.0, very close to, well, I say that, 4 tenths away to Norris's FP3 lap time, and we're looking to go well over that if we can for the pole time, of course. A 30.8 there for Nico Hulkenberg. So a little way from the McLaren, but still they got that first lap in. Of course, if that flag was to be launched a little bit later on, you know, it could have been a very difficult situation if other people hadn't set their laps later on. So far, they were all on their way out on track to try and get everything together so they could start their laps, but it didn't quite work out. In the end, they've been sent it back in early, and they will have a little bit less time to set qualifying runs now, as they'll have to go kind of do basically an extra outlap and in-lap from what they would have been wanting to do before. That's how it goes if you've got a red flag. You have to abort the lap that you're on, and once again go out of the pit lane, naturally, as it makes sense. So it does make it incredibly frustrating, as Max Verstappen was trying to set the lap. Max Verstappen not entirely sure why his lap time got deleted, because the red flag, he says, was deployed after he set his lap. So yeah, they're looking into it, I guess. Would it be reinstated? I don't know. Is it going to be a competitive lap time? I can't quite remember. I didn't get to see it. We were kind of just in a bit of a commotion with Carlos Sainz having their issue, of course, which didn't make it too optimal for their situation. Once again, I apologise for any stream issues that we may have. When I checked it, it seemed absolutely okay. Statistically, it seems like it's an awful live stream. I guess that's based on opinion, really. But yeah, we seem to keep losing frames with this connection situation. So I do apologise. I don't know why it's the case. There's not really much I can do right now. But I will try and make sure I can fix it for future sessions. Of course, the next Grand Prix that will be gone to, of course. Now, we're just waiting for the session to re-begin, and we're hoping that we can get confirmation on when there will be a green flag again as they rebuild that barrier for Carlos Sainz's car that they have put into the wall. They have got rid of the car now. The car is out of the way. They are just repositioning the barrier so it is safe for all the drivers to once again go out on circuit. And it is an important barrier to get right, because it's a high speed part of the circuit if you are going on a full lap. Even if you aren't going on a full lap, it's a heavy hit, and you don't want any problems around that stage of the circuit, that part of the circuit. Alrighty. A few moments to go, and we will get the important stages of qualifying underway. They're just trying to push that barrier back into place, and to try and explain the method that they are using to push that barrier into place is that they are facing away from it and pushing their back end into the wall to try and see if it will move, which is quite funny to see. But I guess if that's how it's done, if it's the best way to do it, then there's no point of changing that. They get the job done, I assume. We're still just waiting for that confirmation, however, if we will be going into the pit lane or not. Alright, we will be back in a few moments' time. Alright. Still rebuilding the barrier at the moment, and we are just waiting for the confirmation to once again go again. Go again once again. As looking at who will take pole position, according to the live stream viewers, we've got Norris 45%, Piastri 18%, Leclerc 36%, and nobody else is predicted to get pole. Of course, but according to the YouTube channel from the poll that we sent out, was that yesterday or this morning? We'll just have a quick double check. That was this morning. It is Norris with 52% chance of Leclerc with a 43, then Carlos Sainz with 0. Definitely Carlos Sainz with 0, because that's completely out the window. 5% for someone else, which I assume would be Oscar Piastri, so Lando Norris is in a very strong position to currently take that pole position according to the opinions. What happened? We saw Carlos Sainz go into the barrier as they started a qualifying run. They allowed the Piastri to go through to start their lap, moved out the way, got on the throttle, went through the final few corners, and then just got a big snap of oversteer and went into the outside barrier, similar to Lance Stroll's crash last year. However, not as hard, not as high speed. Of course, it wasn't on the actual timed lap, it was just starting the lap on the outlap. So it was a little bit slower, but still a bit of a hit, and requires rebuilding the barrier, of course. Track has been deemed clear, and DRS is now enabled, and we will be restarting within a few minutes. Despite everything being deemed clear, we've still got a while to go until the session will be starting. 22:07 local time. So we've got 3 minutes until the session will be restarted. I guess they just want to double check that everything is good to go before we do go for those final few moments of the session. And yeah, I do apologise for the issues that we seem to be having. I mean, I believe we can't really tell on the visual or audio side, but there are apparently issues with the live stream. Alright, we are almost ready to go. We'll get, once again, more qualifying laps within the next 2 minutes. We will see what can happen. Just under 2 minutes to go. Now, Sergio Perez claiming that he struggled with the rear end right there in Q2. That's what knocked him out from Q2 and prevents them from, of course, qualifying up the front. So that will be that for Sergio Perez. The rear end needs to be in check, ready for the race, especially for the race. You can't be affording to make any mistakes when you are fatigued, of course, in a race situation. So yeah, that's going to be something that they'll have to get on top of overnight. At least they don't have to rebuild the car. That's definitely an advantage that they have right now. Whereas, unfortunately, Ferrari, they do have to rebuild that car. We will be, once again, green flagged in a matter of seconds. We're just waiting for that to appear on the screen, of course. Now we are finally good to go. For qualifying, the final stages are going to be underway, and we're waiting for a few cars to leave the pit lane if we can. That would be good, but no, they're taking their sweet time. Would that suggest that we're going to get everybody going for one final run instead of two final runs? That is an interesting decision to, of course, make. I would have expected it to not be quite that way, but it looks like they are going to possibly going for one run instead. Okay, so looks like what they're going to do is fuel the car up a little bit more maybe than usual, so they have enough to do 2 runs in qualifying if they need to. And then if they, of course, don't go for 1 run, then they'll just try and burn a load of the fuel before they go for their final run, of course, if they do make that mistake. But it looks like we probably won't see 2 runs from most teams. We might get a mistake or 2 that force drivers to back out and then go once again. That's about how it's going to go for qualifying. It looks like we won't get those 2 runs, of course, as it's maybe not worth it. It is maybe not worth it. Now, Carlos Sainz going to be possibly getting a fine for crossing the track on foot, as they went straight to the pit lane, I assume. After their crash, they should have gone over the circuit wall on the right-hand side and then walked all the way round in a safer way. I guess you have to go under the circuit, maybe even over around Singapore, but usually I think you go under a section of the circuit to get into the middle part, of course. I believe so, at least. There would be a bridge at some point as well that you can cross over as well, because there are bridges all around a city like Singapore. Alright. No one out just yet. Of course, Carlos Sainz is. But in the wrong way. They will not be starting any higher than 10th unless someone ahead of them is to be disqualified. That is the beauty of getting into Q3 and then crashing and not setting a lap. You at least start the race in 10th place. With the performance that Carlos Sainz has been able to put in recent times, they should still be pretty quick regardless, and their race pace might be enough to back them up later on. We'll see how that one goes. But Charles Leclerc is making their way out of the pit lane. Someone else might be beating them to it, but I believe they're just waiting for the perfect time to go for that start, of course. Also, McLaren are looking to do the same thing as well, as Lando Norris leaves the pit lane. Sorry, Piastri and Norris leave the pit lane. Leclerc is going to follow along. Hamilton looks like they may be getting a bit of a move on. Alonso's managed to jump out ahead of Leclerc as they will be leaving the pit lane. We will see Oscar Piastri go for the first run here in qualifying in Singapore. And as I said, if they make a mistake on the first run that they're on mid-lap, they will have the ability to go for a recharge, a cool-down lap, and then go again. But that is it. It is some of the other cars that are waiting for a much later time aren't going to have that luxury. That's why I'm interested to see Piastri out first, and Hülkenberg also out quite early on as well. They have both set the lap time, so they've at least got a banker in that they can kind of, well, bank on. But they've still managed to get out on circuit first and just make it count, so we'll see. But Oscar Piastri is well ahead of everyone else right now. Two and a half minutes on the clock just about now. Oscar Piastri comes into the final section of the circuit, about to enter sector 3. Now, some cars are having to rush on the way out of the pit lane now. They want to try and warm up their tyres, of course, but they need to make sure that they get the lap in. Now, everyone is out on track at the moment, so this is how it's going to go, and they shouldn't need to worry, but Verstappen and Tsunoda are very close to one another on circuit, so that could be interesting. Oscar Piastri is going to set the first lap time of the session, followed by Lando Norris, who is predicted to be on pole position by quite a margin from most people. Charles Leclerc is actually no. So Charles Leclerc predicted pole by this current live stream, 43% against Lando Norris, 36 and 21% for Piastri. I don't think that's the case now. I think a few people may have changed their mind, and it will be Lando Norris to be expected on pole position. Maybe Charles Leclerc can find it. Let's see if they can surprise us. It would be a good surprise, of course, would it not? But yeah, we'll see if the championship battlers, Norris, Leclerc and Verstappen, can make it into the top three, or will someone be knocked out? Where will the Mercedes drivers end up, and who will be ahead out of Tsunoda and Alonso by the end of this? Alonso, very experienced around this circuit, winning so many times themselves as well, doing a very good job. When it started out, they won in 2008. I won't mention that. They won in 2010, I believe it was, with a Grand Slam victory, which was an awesome job right there from the Spanish driver. Piastri comes through the first sector to improve on their current lap time. Not purple, however. We will see if anybody else can go purple within a few moments' time. Norris is down on their time in the first sector, but they're actually faster than Oscar Piastri, so they're currently on cue to take a provisional pole. That is a fast middle sector there from Piastri, but again, it's not going to be as fast as Lando Norris. Piastri will finish qualifying, and that will be a 29.953, and that is nowhere near Lando Norris from earlier on. Lando Norris has got the final sector to go through, and it should be pole position for the British driver for now. They top the times by a hell of a margin, 4 tenths over Oscar Piastri. That will be it, I believe, for Oscar Piastri, who will come across the line now. Hulkenberg finishes qualifying 5 tenths behind, almost taking Piastri down the order. Alonso will be up next. Let's watch and see what they can do. Then it will be Leclerc, who is expected to challenge for pole position. They're going green in their sectors. They are going nice and green, but are they going fast enough? No. 2 tenths down on Norris in the middle sector, and that is a decent margin behind them in the other sector. Of course, that is Alonso to P4. Leclerc crosses the line. It should be P2. It's not. It's going to be P4 behind Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg putting in a phenomenal performance. It will be Lewis Hamilton up next in the Mercedes. Have they found their form? Yes, they have. 3 tenths behind Lando Norris still, but a purple final sector for Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen, the championship leader, is going to take him down immediately and makes it a P2. Could it be a Lando Norris 1-2 to start this Grand Prix? Russell to P4 just behind his teammate in the end. Tsunoda will finish off qualifying, and that's going to be a P8. And Charles Leclerc, who has made a massive mistake, has actually got their lap time deleted and will not be able to start any much further than their teammate, who starts in P10. It's a Ferrari 910, which I did not expect to say at all. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, the two main championship rivals, are going to be competing into the first corner at Singapore. That is absolutely incredible, and we could see Max Verstappen lead by the first corner as we go into the start of the Singapore Grand Prix for tomorrow's race. That is an awesome job there from Lando Norris. 2 tenths ahead, just absolutely destroyed the field. And Piastri having a bit of a disappointing run in that final stage right there, of course. And almost lost out to Hulkenberg effectively. I say that, it was a little bit of a margin. We had over 1.5 tenths, so never mind, it wasn't quite so much. But wow, Mercedes, P3, P4 in qualifying. They managed to really make that work. That is an awesome job there from the Brackley-based team, and makes it one of the drivers into the top 3. They lock out the second front row of the grid, as they were hoping to maybe have a look at one car at least being on the front row. So they weren't far off their predictions. They managed to get everything to count as well, whereas Leclerc, it just didn't go the way they wanted it to, and that is going to be a big problem indeed. Benefit for Lando Norris is that he's well ahead of his teammate going into the start of the Grand Prix, which should mean that he has that of benefit of the doubt, of course. that advantage. Those team orders won't need to be applied as much, assuming that they can stay ahead in the opening laps of the Grand Prix, of course. That has been qualifying. Thank you very much for watching. It has been a pleasure. Hopefully you can watch the race tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. We won't be doing our stream for the race, but we will be cheering on our favourite drivers, and I hope you can do too. Make sure you join the polling that will be sent out shortly after this live stream to predict who will win the race tomorrow. I will say once again, thank you very much for watching. We will see you later on for the F1.5 EU Championship for LSI at the Singapore Grand Prix, and we will see you next time for the Watchalongs. Bye-bye.